We're going to start adding some configuration to these devices. So we're going to add IP addresses and static routes. By the time we're done with this particular section, we still will not have end-to-end connectivity because we haven't completed our VLAN configuration and spanning tree yet. So we will not have end-to-end connectivity at the end of this section yet. So let's go ahead and add our IP addresses and static routes where they need to be. So let's bring our topology diagram back into play. And in case you had not already taken a screenshot of this, you will want to, because these are the IP addresses we're going to want to implement. Now, once again, when you're building this, you can use whatever IP addressing you want. I just chose this to make it simple. Okay, so I'm going to start with, let's start just working from left to right. I'll start with router 1. And I will turn him on. I've got quite a few devices in this topology, so I may not want to turn them on. Well, let's see here. Actually, I've only got 1, 2, 3, 4. I've got 5 iOS devices, so it's probably pretty safe to turn them all on at once. Okay, so let's go ahead and go into router 1 now. As that's coming up, it's going to be Fast Ethernet 00 on this particular router that we're going to want to configure as an 802.1q trunk. So we're basically configuring what's called a router on a stick at this point. So interface Fast Ethernet 0/0. All we have to do here is no shut. But before I do that, I'm going to want to create my sub interfaces. And I'm supporting VLANs 4 and 5, so I'll do sub interface 4 to begin with. It could be any number I want. I'm just choosing that. Encapsulation.1q4. That makes sure that he understands 802.1q tags and that anything that arrives with a tag value of 4 or needs to leave with a tag value of 4, the VLAN of 4, will use this particular sub interface. And then select the correct IP address. All right, and then rinse and repeat. Do the same thing for our next sub interface. I'm just using the up arrow here to go through my command history, just making slight changes as we go along. Okay, now before I leave this, I also need to put in a static route, and then the last thing I'll do is bring up that physical interface. All right, so static route. Why don't we just create a single default route in this guy? Because really there's only one way out on him. He doesn't have multiple egress points. So IP route 00000000 that says anything you don't know about. Let's have him go to, well, he's got 2 possible people he could go to. VLAN 4 or VLAN 5 on his counterpart, which is router 2. So doesn't really matter. We'll just select one of them. Let's select in this particular case. Let's do it this way. Let's bring in this drawing here. Let's configure router 1 so that if he's trying to get to the 232 network, he'll go across VLAN 4. And if he's trying to get to the 323 network, he'll go across VLAN 5. So that will necessitate 2 different static routes in router 1. All right, so to get to the 2.3.2 network, your next hop is going to be 1.2.4.2. And to get to the 3.2.3 network, your next hop will be 1.2.5.2. And now the last thing is we need to go back into his physical interface and bring it up. Save our configuration. Okay, so we are done with that router. I can get rid of him. Now as far as IP addressing is concerned, let's go over to the far right and go to router 3 and configure router 3. It's going to be pretty much the same kind of thing as we did in router 1. So I'll just start by configuring my static routes. IP route 1.2.4.0, 255, 255, 255.0. And we want that to go to the next hop of 2.3.2.2. And an IP route of 1.2.5.0. We want that to go to 3.2.3.2. Okay, that'll accomplish load balancing on that side. And then go to interface fast Ethernet 0/0. Let's make sure it really was 0/0. Yep, 0/0. Dot. Okay, so we're dealing with VLANs 2 and 3 here, so I'll make this sub-interface 2. Encapsulation .1Q2. IP address 2.3.2.3. And then we'll create a sub-interface for VLAN 3. .3.2.3.3. And then lastly, we'll bring up our physical interface. And save that configuration. Okay, so we're done with router 3. Now let's go over and configure the IP addressing on router 2 here in the middle. Okay, so let's start with his fast Ethernet 0/1. So we're not trunking on these two interfaces. These are just regular routed ports with just a single subnet. So interface fast Ethernet 0/1. That's going to be IP address of 2.3.2.2. No shut. And the other one is fast Ethernet 1/0. IP address 3.2.3.2. No shut. Okay, and now we have to configure fast Ethernet 0/0 as a trunk. Now before we do that, at this point, we should have end-to-end IP connectivity between router 2 and router 3. We already previously created the VLANs and created the trunks in switch 1. Now we've completed our router on a stick over here on router 3, and we've configured our IP addresses on router 2. So we should be able to ping our directly connected routers across that link. Let's see if we can. If not, we'll have to do a little bit of troubleshooting. So I'm on router 2 right now, ping 2.3.2.3. He's ARPing for it. Great success. Ping 3.2.3.3. He's ARPing for it. And success. Wonderful. Okay, so now we just have one little step left on router 2. We got to configure this side over here as a router on a stick by making it a trunk. So interface fast Ethernet 0/0.4 to support VLAN 4. Encapsulation .1Q4. IP address 1.2.4.2. And a sub-interface for VLAN 5, which will be 1.2.5.2. Okay, save the configuration. Now in this particular case, there are no static routes necessary on router 2 because every single subnet in this topology he's directly connected to. There's no subnets here that he's not actually connected to on some kind of interface. So we don't need any kind of static routes configured on him. And that concludes this particular section. This section was focused on adding IP addresses and static routes, and we have done that. So now in the next sections, we're really going to get into the meat of configuring switching commands on our EtherSwitch routers.